Chapter 3, the English Colonies. Section 3, the Middle Colonies. Alright, in this section we're going to talk about the creation of 4 colonies, kind of in the central part of the English colonies. And the first colony we're going to talk about is New York. It first was established by the Dutch. They founded a colony called New Netherland, named obviously after their own country, in 1613, kind of as a fur trading post, kind of in competition with the French. And the capital of New Netherlands was New Amsterdam. Amsterdam's the capital of Netherlands. New Amsterdam's the capital of New Netherlands. New Amsterdam was the center of this fur trading Dutch colony. And you can kind of see that in this map here. This yellowy area here is the area called New Netherlands, right along the Hudson River and the Mohawk River. There was one governor of the Dutch, of this New Netherlands colony, called Peter Stuyvesant. He was a crusty old fellow, and he had a peg leg. And he led the colony from 1647 to 1664. Now, in 1664, the English will arrive at the colony, and they want the colony. And they asked Peter Stuyvesant for the colony. Peter Stuyvesant said, "No way, Jose." He said he would put up a fight. He would not leave until the last Englishman was dead. Well, the English start to get off the boat to come and attack. And as soon as the English arrive on the shores, Peter Stuyvesant goes right up to the English and promptly surrenders. No fighting involved with Peter Stuyvesant. And so he surrenders the colony to the English in 1664, and they will promptly name it New York, named after the Duke of York over in England. So up here you see the New York colony, and the English will also take control of the land between the Hudson River and the Delaware River right here, and they will name it New Jersey, Jersey being the land, one of the lands over in England. And it was given to a couple of friends of the Duke of York, and they will run this particular colony called New Jersey. And so you have New York and New Jersey here being established. And it was a very diverse area because it once had New Sweden in it before the Dutch conquered them. So you see Dutch living there, Swedes living there, some Finns live there, and Scots, meaning people from Scotland. A large group of religious people from England called the Society of Friends were a group in England that were persecuted for their beliefs, and they were also looking for religious freedom. So they asked the king to give them a charter, and the king obliged, and they were allowed to come over to America. The Society of Friends is also known as the Quakers. They were one of the largest religious groups in New Jersey. The Quakers, again, were persecuted in England because they supported nonviolence and religious tolerance. That didn't really fly really well with the Anglican Church, so they left to come to America. A man named Willam Penn is going to found the colony of Pennsylvania. You see, it's named after him, Pennsylvania, Penn, as a safe home for Quakers to live. And it wasn't just for Quakers, however. He was so open to other people, so he allowed all types of people to come and live in Pennsylvania. Penn limited his power. He didn't want to be some, kind of tyrannical leader of a colony, so he had a very limited power. He established an elected assembly of people who were voted in. They were representatives, and he promised religious freedom to all Christians who came to Pennsylvania. So this was kind of like the model colony of representative government and religious freedom. Now, we really didn't talk about Delaware all that much, but Delaware was once part of Pennsylvania, but many of the people who were representatives of this land, they felt it was too far to travel from their land, as lower counties down here, to get to Philadelphia, which is kind of the capital of Pennsylvania. So Willam Penn allowed them to form their own colony, which became known as Delaware. That's that little area right there. The economy of the Middle Colonies were based on something called staple crops. Staple crops were crops that were always needed. These aren't really crops to make money off of, but these were just things that you needed. Wheat, right here, barley, oats. All these were crops that were needed by the colonists, whether it was to make bread or to make beer, those sorts of things. Now, the Middle Colonies had larger farms than the New England colonies, not quite as big as the large plantations down in the Southern colonies. So there were some slaves in the Middle Colonies, but the majority of workers were indentured servants. They were the larger source of labor. Indentured servants were basically people who wanted to come over to America but couldn't afford to, so someone over in America paid for them to come over, and in return they would have to work for them for a period of 4 to 7 years to pay off their debt, and then they were free to go on. Trade to Britain and the West Indies was also important to the economy of the Middle Colonies. Here's England over here, here's the West Indies down here, so trading to all these areas, this is where that triangle trade occurred. Of course, you would link Africa in that as well, but the whole point here is that the trade between the North American colonies to England and to the West Indies. These are all English colonies. Women ran farms and businesses and were also nurses and midwives. A midwife is someone who helps pregnant women deliver their babies. Most women worked primarily in the home, managing households and raising children. Now, with the New England colonies, we talked about how they had schools, but in the Middle Colonies, they didn't really have schools, so there was a lot of private tutors and things like that happening. In the Southern colonies, which we didn't really mention all that much, a lot of the Southern colonies, they would send their kids off to boarding school in England or other places because the plantations were just too far apart from each other to have any kind of school. That is the end of section 3.